Those mistakes can really add up. Bisso quite a bit behind. Sync them up here. So Bisso using the Japanese version, Brian on the US version. There's no difference between the versions in terms of performance. They're both the same. However, the Japanese Toad voice actor is about 5 times as annoying. So we'll be able to enjoy that throughout the match. Bisso pulling out a bit of an early lead. Sorry, Brian pulling out the early lead, but with the wide shroom, gonna lose a bit of time. Oreo Stadium also a pretty common one for lower ranked players to omit a few MTs. Even there is an MT coming up that pretty much nobody does, that it is to MT on that drop, so you start a drift on the ramp and drop down and finish the MT once you land. I think pretty much only Matthias does that. Even Dan, who held the world record until recently, doesn't do that. So Brian does have the lead after lap 1, but Bisso definitely within striking distance, especially on this track. One hit into the wall could easily catch him up. And of course, both players hit the wall as soon as I say that. These look like they've tightened right back up. Both pretty in sync now. Very close race. Neither player going for the MTs across these hills. Not surprising, especially in a one try. Ooh, Bisso missing the MT down the hill, but Brian hitting the wall. Both struggling a little bit on lap 2, but still extremely close race. They are very synced up. Brian just hitting the wall there, something very easy to do on that last turn. So Bisso will go into lap 3. Wow, they they crossed it like the same time. I can't believe how long they've been in sync for. Like, they're both making... Whenever one person makes a mistake, the other person makes, like, the same mistake in the next corner. Even their shrooms are pretty much the same. I think Bisso does have a... Oh, as soon as I say it, he hits the wall. I was going to say he has a bit of a lead. I think now Brian has a lead by just a little bit. It is going to come down to how tight these guys can hold their MTs on these last couple corners. This one over the hill can be a bit tricky. This is going to be very close to the line. Oh, Bisso might have just lost it with that wall hit. Oh, but Brian hits the wall at the end. What? Bisso wins by 0.01. Oh my god. That's crazy. That was absolutely insane. I think that's the first .01 difference, at least that I've seen. I haven't seen all the matches though. Alright, next one we will be going to Toad's Turnpike. I know Bisso was practicing this one shortly before the match started, so he's certainly the favorite here, I'd say. So Toad's Turnpike, the obvious obstacles of the cars. Hitting a car is going to lose you a massive amount of time. It's a good 2 or 3 seconds probably. I would be a little bit surprised to see either of these players hit it, but players much higher ranked than them have hit cars in this league. Me, for example. Brian using his first shroom early. The shroom spots in this 3-lap are all pretty much the same on all 3 laps, so you have a lot of choice over where you're going to use them. Bisso, even without using a shroom, is actually in the lead after lap 1, so an even bigger lead than it looks like. Struggling a bit to stay off the wall. He does fire his first shroom now. Brian's certainly not out of this yet, especially with the danger of the cars looming. Oh, and as I say it, Brian hits one. So Bisso pretty much just plays it safe here. He should take the track. So now Brian with 2 shrooms on this last lap. We'll see if see how far he can catch up. If he can get within striking distance and hope Bisso hits a car. The cars at the very end of the race on lap 3 on the last straightaway and the last turn are really annoying. Bisso actually getting caught in the fence a little bit there. But the cars at the end are really annoying. It's probably the most likely place for someone to hit a car, so Brian definitely not out of it. See how Bisso handles these cars at the end. And yeah, he's through them. So he will take the second track. Next pick will be Brian's. We'll see what he goes with. Looking at his matchup, he does have a few tracks where him and Bisso are quite close. Wario Stadium was one of them, so a smart pick from him at the beginning. And he's going to be taking us to Calamari Desert. Calamari Desert, another one that is, they are relatively close compared to some of the other times. Really, Abney, interesting. Not sure why Brian started so late. We'll sync them back up. Ooh, Bisso struggling with that first shroom. Hitting the wall. Missing an MT on the straightaway as well. Both players going for what's looking like, oh, Bisso deciding to use his third shroom. Probably smart considering he lost that first shroom. The trains on here are on cycles, and so these guys will have known by now what shroom strat they need to be consistent to avoid the trains. Bisso obviously thinking he wasn't going to make it ahead of this train. He might not anyways. Okay, yeah, he just makes it. Had to sacrifice his line a bit. But Brian also safely through, and he does have his shroom still. Going with a 2-1-0 shroom strat. See, I think Bisso might be struggling with the last train on this pace. Brian getting a bit close to that train. He's alright though. He should be safe from the last train, but Bisso is gonna have to wait for it. Yeah, I had a feeling on that one. His pace was just a bit too slow, just missing that one shroom. And really, Brian should be taking his first track of the match. Yeah, the Japanese version has some ads that were a bit problematic, and so they were forced to change them for the US and European releases. And Bisso is going to be taking us to Luigi Raceway. These guys have very different stream delays. Yeah, so this is actually also one of their closer tracks looking at the matchup, so an interesting pick from Bisso. This was actually one that I was kind of expecting Brian to pick at some point. Very low variance track though, so any mistake is very punished. We'll see if either of them can get the mystery boost. Doesn't look like Brian did, looks like Bisso did. So Bisso is going to start with a bit of a lead by 0.11 after lap 1. Common mistake, probably the most common mistake, is on this double shroom lap to slam into the wall on one of your shrooms and lose it. Hopefully I didn't just jinx someone. Both getting through clean. Ooh, Bisso in the sand and Brian in the grass. So Bisso with a pretty healthy lead for Luigi Raceway. You don't tend to see someone flying off into the distance, but Bisso struggling in the sand. He's kind of letting Brian back in a little bit, but still with a good lead. And yeah, it looks like Bisso will take his third track of the set. So one more win from Bisso and he will take the set, so Brian gonna have to think hard about which track he wants to take us to. I think it's not just the logo, like outside of 76 gas stations, they would have a ball on a pole outside the gas station. Like they literally stole the physical pole and put it in the game. Oh, Brian going with high variance Yoshi Valley. Probably a smart pick from him, to be honest. Assuming he can get through clean. See, so obviously on this track, the Spinies are awful. They are on cycles, so you can predict where they are, but sometimes they're just in places where you're never going to avoid them. Both getting through clean on lap 1, although... Oh, Brian misses hairpin jump. That is a shame. That's a really big time loss falling down there. Electing to use his second shroom to guarantee it on the second attempt. That is going to mean he doesn't have a shroom for the first corner. How did Bisso not hit that Spiny? Nice hitbox, Nintendo. So yeah, Bisso basically now, if he just... oh, Brian hitting a Spiny off the edge. And Bisso has this one. Honestly, just needs to play this safe and he will take the set. And he is going to the right path. Much safer. The Spinies are completely out of the way. Oh, but he misses hairpin. Got caught up on the fence on the entry. I think he still will be okay as long as he can get across on the second try. Yes, and he will take it. Avoid the egg. Got close. A couple people have hit the egg. Again, me included. Looks like Brian's gonna cheat. Yeah. He still barely won. But yeah, that is a DQ from Brian. No shortcuts allowed. Fair enough from Brian. Knew he was going to lose anyways. Nice to show off the right pass shortcut as well. Not very common to see in time trials. So Bisso takes the first set, and with that, Brian actually does get the first pick of the second set, and he's taking us once again to high variance. He's going to Moo Moo Farm. So Moo Moo Farm is awful. Pretty much universally considered the worst track in the game. Except for weirdos like Abney. The ground's uneven, making MTs difficult, and the moles are completely random. And yeah, that's a good point, actually. Toad being picked by Brian now instead of Yoshi. Toad, Yoshi, and Peach are all identical in time trials. They all are the same speed. We'll see. Ooh, Bisso risking a molehill, and he hits a mole. Pretty dangerous shroom, if I'm honest. Risked a lot of mole holes there. So the moles are completely random. And I think it's actually more likely for them to be up than down. Oh, and Bisso hits another mole. Brian's struggling a little bit with the uneven ground, but he should be okay. I think he just went under a mole. So if you get your timing really well, really lucky, when the mole jumps up, there is actually just enough room underneath to fit underneath the mole. And I think he did just get incredibly lucky. He needs to be careful on this third lap because Bisso's still holding on close enough that if Brian hits a mole... Oh, which he does. I think Bisso's going to catch up. This could be close at the end. I think Brian still has it. Yes, he does. I gotta shut my mouth. I keep jinxing people. It is. Commentator's Curse is very strong. But Brian taking the lead in set 2. So good for him. Moo Moo Farm is somewhat of a lottery. Brian picked Wario Stadium last time. And Bisso's taking us to Choco Mountain. Well, commentator's curse is unbiased. I call it the way I see it. Choco is a track that Bisso does have quite an advantage on, looking at their matchup, so smart pick from him, although he is struggling a little bit in this first lap. Brian electing to use the shroom at the end of the lap. There is a bit of variance on what part of the track you use your shroom on, and then both going for around the first turn. The boulders are on a cycle, and they're on a very friendly cycle. You shouldn't see anybody hitting them. Oh, Brian tumbling against the wall. He was doing well too. Bisso with a very large lead now. Now he's fired off his last shroom. Yeah, so we've got Commentator's Curse and Chat Curse, very strong. Everybody should just stop talking. The joke, keep talking. Yeah, Bisso with the cleaner run. He's going to take his first track of the set. Brian does have a couple more high variance tracks he could pick still, but he is running out of them. Gonna have to go with some strategic picks in this set if he's gonna grab it. We're going to be going to Mario Raceway, which is somewhat of a variance track. The mushroom cut can cause some pretty big problems. Mushroom Cut has been known to cause even the best of players some pretty big troubles in this tournament, or in this league, I should say. And this is coming up. Probably the most important part of this track, this mushroom cut. Both players getting through pretty clean. Bisso a little cleaner. I think Brian might have clipped the wall on the exit, but very close race. See the mushroom cut on lap 2. They can get through clean. Ooh, Bisso struggles and Brian gets through clean, so Brian takes a pretty good lead. Bisso avoiding a spin out, getting through as good as you can hope on a failed mushroom cut, really. So he's still very much within touching distance. Brian needs a clean mushroom cut here. Oh, and he struggles to get through. They are very close now. I think Brian has a little bit of a lead. See, this last corner could be very important. Brian gets through well. And Brian takes it. He had a much cleaner last turn there, and that gave him a bit of a cushion. Brian was on a very quick pace for his level going into lap 3. And Bisso's going to be taking us to Royal Raceway. So now we've got all the raceways out of the way. So Brian's certainly putting up a fight in this set. He's won both of his picks so far. Royal Raceway is one where some big time saves and losses can be made in places you wouldn't think. This 180 turn being a very important one. Brian looking like he got through just a little bit cleaner, especially with Bisso in the grass on the exit. I know Brian doesn't do a second MT on this, neither does Bisso, okay. Both with a decent shroom. Brian looking like he has just a slight lead. Ooh, but he misses the MT on the ramp. Probably a good adjustment to the left for Brian there. I think he was heading for a tumble if he didn't do that. Ooh, gets unlucky with the bounces on the end. And Bisso does lead by 0.2 after lap 1. Brian with a very clean 180. He did gain himself some time. He definitely has the advantage over Bisso on that section of the track in particular. Caught himself right back up. And Brian doing a second MT. Oh, but he hits the wall on the shroom. I wonder if doing that second MT just took him out of his rhythm a bit. And yeah, Bisso with a commanding lead at this point. Gonna need a pretty big mistake from him. Certainly possible though. This 180 can cause problems. He played it pretty safe. So Bisso making it through kind of clean. As I was saying that, he was hitting the wall. Bounces at the end of the ramp. Very unusual in time trials. But looking... yeah, he's going to take the fourth track and tie it up at 2-2. And is that a PR? Is that a real PR? No, it's not. His PR is over a second better. I didn't think that was good enough for PR for him. So yeah, a bit of a false start there. He's just turning off his music for me. In this game, if you hit L on your controller when you start a track, it'll make your music really quiet, and if you hit L again, it turns off the music entirely. So we do that with one player just so we can hear both people's MTs to see if they miss any or not, but we don't get double music. So a smart pick from Brian here, I think. This was a pretty close race, and their PRs are closer than some other tracks. See how they fare on the shroom. Bisso a bit more aggressive on the first shroom. Looks like he does save a bit of time, but actually Brian with the early lead. Ooh, but misses an MT. Bisso in the sand though, probably gonna take him a bit further behind. Brian's still with the lead after turn one. Turn one, how tight you take it can save and lose you a lot of time. Man, Brian was close to the wall there. Neither player shrooming into the wall, so that's good. Brian's still with the lead. We'll see if he can hold on to it for the rest of the lap. This is looking like it could be a very close race to the line. No mistakes from Brian, and I think he will be taking Luigi Raceway. He does. Well done by Brian there. So he takes a 3-2 lead, one track away from taking a set. But it is Bisso's pick. And he's taking us to Frapp Snowland. This could be a very interesting race. Hoping for the jungle. I think from what I remember in past matches, neither of these players has a particularly good record in DK, so I think they might both be avoiding it. See if either player goes for the AB spin start. They both do. Neither of them very clean though. Early on, I would say Bisso does look more comfortable on this track. Brian missing some MTs, falling behind early. Oh, but oh my goodness! Bisso got caught on the texture and lost all his speed, but Brian got actually caught out of bounds. Had to get Lakitu to come save him. Unfortunately, he's gonna. This track though, he is not out yet. He is. He's gonna need some mistakes from Bisso, but the snowman, Bisso could get stuck out of bounds as well. It's certainly not over yet. Bisso with a monster lead at this point. But again, snowman out of bounds on the shroom. Could very easily swing back. Yeah, Hype, and it probably is. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is some variance, but if you're good at the track, it's going to vary a lot less. So people who are good at this track really find value in picking it. And Bisso will take that track and tie it up. We're heading to a 7th track in the set. Extremely close set. It's an interesting suggestion, Kyle. And Brian goes with it. Frapp Snowland Joker for the deciding track. So in this league, each player gets one shortcut pick per match. I'm just gonna quickly check. So Bisso doesn't even have a Frapp Snowland shortcut time on the leaderboards, whereas Brian actually has a pretty decent one on the leaderboards. So this could get very interesting. Neither player going for the boost start. Pretty obvious there. Oh, okay. I think Brian got the first shortcut. And Bisso definitely missed. So this should Brian came very close to missing the first shortcut, I just want to say. He almost didn't cross the finish line. But Brian takes it, and with that he takes the set. So yeah, very, very smart Joker pick from Brian. Really no better place to use it in my opinion. A deciding track in a set, and you know your opponent is weak on a shortcut track. Very good job from Brian. Bisso just taking a couple seconds here. We'll mention that now that we're into the third set, the track picks all reset. They can go back to picking whatever tracks they want. Again, you can't have the same track in a set twice. Kyle, they made it through 2 sets without Rainbow Road. Let's not give them any ideas, shall we? Okay, and Bisso will, since Bisso lost the last set, he picks first, and we're going to Toad's Turnpike again. That's true, yeah, they did win entirely their own picks in that set. The first race, yeah, just go watch it. I won't spoil anything. Alright, Haddock. Spoiler. You should still watch it. So I believe last time we came here, Brian hit a car, and Bisso won relatively easily. But up until the car hit, they were pretty close. So if Brian can keep it clean, this could be a very interesting race. Bisso does have the early lead. He does seem to be a bit more comfortable on these longer tracks, some of the more technical tracks. So Bisso with the early lead, but he hasn't used a shroom yet, so the lead is even bigger than it might seem. Brian deciding to go inside the cars. He will save some time doing that. Is a bit risky, but he got through. Bisso now firing his first shroom. Misses an MT on the downhill. So Brian catching up a little bit. He does still have quite a lot of work to do. Brian reeling Bisso in. Slowly gaining time, and Bisso... Oh, Bisso hits the truck! Clipped the wall on the shroom, and it sent him flying into the truck. Brian struggling a little bit on the fence, but he does have a pretty good lead now. And he even has a shroom in hand, whereas Bisso couldn't recover from this car hit with a shroom. If Brian hits a car, he can recover with the shroom and lose a little less time than Bisso did. But he fires his shroom. Probably the right thing to do. We'll see if he can avoid the cars on this tricky ending. Cars in horrible places at this point. Getting a little close. Please, Brian. Oh, Bisso hits another car, though, and Brian will take Toad Turnpike. Yeah, this is a very good match so far. And Brian taking us to that high variance track, DK's Jungle Parkway. This could get crazy. This track extremely high variance because of the ramp jump. Not just taking it fast or slow, but missing it entirely is certainly a risk. Also, because they're on NTSC, the frame rate is awful. Because Brian actually is playing zoomed in, isn't he? So we're going to get some desync on this track. Playing zoomed out saves quite a lot of time from lag, but that's real time, not in-game time. So by the end of this track, they will actually be in real time, separated by a few seconds. But their in-game time, if they drove the exact same race, their in-game time would still be the same. I think Bisso, though, yeah, Bisso still has a 0.36 lead after the first lap. Ooh, Bisso playing it extremely safe there. He might have lost all the time he saved on lap 1 just from that. Yeah, and again, this is not me. I synced them up at the start of the race. It's just when you're zoomed in like Brian is, there's so much extra lag on this track that it really desyncs them. Bisso using a shroom up the last up the cave. I guess he didn't use it after the ramp because of his jump was so far to the right. So we'll see. I think it's so hard to tell who's in the lead. I think Bisso is probably still in the lead by a bit. Oh, especially after that mistake from Brian. I think Bisso probably does have this. Four seconds difference between the times right now. Oh, Bisso struggles up the cave if Brian can get a good cave. Brian gets a very good cave. And he takes the track. That cave at the end got it for him. Alright, sorry for that bit of a delay. Had to head off to the little commentator's room. So we'll see what Brian picks. It is his pick, and he's got a 2-0 lead to start this set. Or excuse me, it's Bisso's pick. And he's going to go to Choco Mountain. Choco, probably a very smart pick from Bisso. Needs to get a handle on this set. Can't afford to go 3-0 down. Yeah, Choco Mountain. Both players electing to go for the shroom around the second corner this time. Did look like Brian's was slightly tighter. Bisso losing a lot of speed, clipping the wall. So Brian taking the early lead. A lot of nonsense can happen on this track, though. The walls are pretty unforgiving. Brian electing to jump at the end of that hill gets himself sort of pseudo good hills by doing that, but he's all over the wall. Gonna lose a lot of time there. Bisso taking the lead. Oh, but Bisso hits a boulder! That was like a full set delay on the commentator's curse. I said earlier that it would be very unlikely to see someone hit a boulder. Brian with a huge lead and pretty likely to be taking a 3-0 lead in this set now, which I did not expect. Brian also, if he can hold on to this, will have taken 2 of Bisso's picks in this set. So very strong performance. And yeah, gets through safely, and he's going to take a stranglehold on this set at 3-0. And Brian's going high variance again. We're going to Moo Moo Farm. Yeah, I've got to play Arens tomorrow, but I am not prepared. I've been playing, but I haven't been doing one try stuff. So, should be an interesting match. Especially if he's gone and practiced, like a cheater. So, Moo Moo Farm. See what happens. Last time, Bisso hitting a couple moles. Brian actually hit a mole last time too, but still managed to win the track. Oh, Brian's struggling with the uneven ground. He's ruled. That was such a risky shroom. Paid off for him though. And he's actually in the lead after lap 1. Both players playing it safe around on that shroom. Bisso now with the lead. Somebody can do the quick math. I just know he was ahead by more than Brian was on the last lap. Ooh, Brian's struggling with the ground. The unevenness of the ground is so hard to deal with on this track. I think at this point he is going to need Bisso to hit a mole. Oh, Bisso goes very wide. Oh, Brian hits a mole trying to take it tight. And Bisso takes the track. Bisso also pretty close to PR, assuming that Kart time is PR. I think that seems roundabout right. My NTSC conversions aren't really in my head. No, okay, he's got a 114. I don't know what Kart he's using, but none of his PRs are on it, it seems. And he's taking us back to Royal Raceway. Smart pick from him, he won last time. Where the Rainbow Road at? In the bin, where it belongs, Haddock. Like, Rainbow Road wouldn't be so bad if it was, like, the length combined with the uninteresting track. Like, it's not all that complicated. It's just a lot of sort of MT spam. And then just the colors hurt my eyes. So Bisso looks like to have the early lead, but his stream is actually a little bit ahead, so we'll see when they cross the finish line. And yeah, Brian actually ahead by 0.12, even though he looks like he's behind. Just close your eyes on Rainbow Road, yeah. Wonder how far I'd get before I hit a flaunt. So yeah, considering Brian's stream is a bit behind, the fact that they're synced up means he does have a pretty decent lead. He keeps making adjustments on those ramps, but I think it is actually saving him when he does that. So he was ahead by 1-2. Now he's lost 1-7, so he's behind by 0.05 after lap 2. He's missed his MT, struggling a little bit. I think Bisso's extended his lead. See, the shroom could be critical. Bisso going a little early, Brian going later, but just not very tight. Yeah, I think Bisso should be taking this. So another close set. Going to be going to 3-2. And it is Brian's pick next. So after a set that went to 7 tracks, we now have a set going to at least 6 tracks. Very close contest between these two. Brian electing to go back to Calamari Desert. could be very interesting. Brian won last time, but Bisso made a pretty huge mistake that kind of gifted it to him. We'll see if they end up in a fair fight here, who comes out on top. Both players getting through the shroom clean, but oh, Bisso clips the wall. The shrooms are going to be so important. You can lose a deceptive amount of time by going a little wide on that shroom through the sand. Looking like Bisso does have an early lead after lap 1 by about 0.13. Bisso just looking like his MTs are a little cleaner, a little faster. But Brian with a tighter shroom that time. Ooh, a little bit of a mistake there. Getting into the fence. And Bisso's pulled out an even bigger lead. Now about 0.2. But also into the sand a little bit. Brian deciding not to do that SSMT, probably a good idea given what his line and angle was. Both past the train. Brian's struggling a little bit. Bisso looking like he does have enough of a lead to make it through. And I believe yes, and Bisso does take that track, and he ties up the set 3-3. So 2 in a row, we go to the 7th track. And Bisso taking us to Luigi Raceway. Ooh, that's a very interesting pick. Yeah, very risky pick from Bisso. So we've now had Luigi Raceway in all 3 sets so far, and it's currently 1-1. Bisso won the first one, Brian won the second one. So the Luigi Raceway tiebreaker. If they tied this track, it would be insane. It's very close so far. See how the mystery boost goes. Looks like Brian got it. I was watching Brian's screen, so I didn't see if Bisso got it. Bisso with about half a second lead after lap 1. It's tough to catch up on this track. Brian missing his drift into the first turn. There has yet to be a tie in this league. Earlier on in this match, though, there was a race that was lost by 0.01. See how their shrooms go. They look like they've almost synced back up, but actually Brian losing 0.01 on that lap. So still about a half a second lead for Bisso. Brian's going to need Bisso to make a pretty big mistake, which is Kind of hard to do on this track, honestly. Ooh, but Bisso does make a mistake on the entry, but Brian gets caught on the wall. Oh, man. And Brian in the sand at the end. This could still be pretty close. By .03, are you kidding me? Bisso wins and takes the set. This is a ridiculous match. Bisso also coming back from 3-0 down in the set to take that set, winning 4 tracks in a row, is pretty incredible. Brian gonna have to shake that off and get his head back in for the first track of the next set because it is his pick. So 2 sets in a row go to track 7, and that's won by .03. Brian taking us to Mario Raceway for the first track of set 4. Very similar thing happened to me in my match against Jaden, actually. Luigi Raceway, track number 7, lost by a very small margin. I think something similar to about a .03, something around that. So once again, the mushroom cut going to be vital. Last time, Brian did take this track in a very close race. Both make it through pretty clean. Brian's struggling with his MTs a little bit. But yeah, the mushroom cut will be the big decider. He's going to be a little bit behind after lap 1. But still very much in the race. About a .15 difference. See the mushroom cuts. Oh, Bisso struggles, spins out and hits the wall. Brian with a very big lead now. I wonder... Ooh. He didn't have the cleanest mushroom cut himself. I wonder if he elects to take it safe here, or if he still does the mushroom cut. Still does the mushroom cut, and he gets stuck on the piranha plant. He does still have the lead, though. Ooh, and I think he will hang on to take the first track. Yeah, very similar race to last time, but Bisso having a much worse mushroom cut on lap 2 than he did in the last race. And Bisso taking us to Yoshi Valley. Probably taking the result of the last Yoshi Valley into account in that pick. So Brian did struggle quite heavily on this track last time, but it's Yoshi Valley. One race goes horribly, the next race is perfect. Or the next race could go even worse. It's such a crapshoot, so should be an interesting race. Wow, starting like perfectly in sync. What I like to see. Less work for me. Brian drifting at the start, Bisso deciding to just drive straight at the beginning. Ooh, Brian getting close both. Oh, not only does he hit the spiny, but he gets the weird glitchy wall physics where he gets sent back down the hill. Certainly not over yet though. This track is probably the highest variance track that you could pick. So needs to keep his head down, get the rest of the track clean. Problem is, now that he's hit one spiny, the cycles are off, and sort of... Oh, Bisso hits a spiny! Oh, just avoids falling off the track. Brian hits a spiny as well. So yeah, Brian, through all that, I think did gain a bit of time. Oh, but he misses the hairpin. He went super aggressive. I actually thought he was going to make it. Luckily, he does actually get placed on the far side. But Bisso going to need to make a huge mistake here for Brian to catch up. This track is absolute chaos. Bisso deciding to go the right path, probably the right move. Brian is going to need Bisso to miss this hairpin jump if he's going to come back. And Bisso makes it. So, and Brian hitting another spiny, so that should seal it. Bisso will tie up the set. Really, one of them must have dropped frames or something because they started for me at like literally the exact same time. Oh yeah, that is probably the reason if he's playing zoomed in. Yoshi Valley is a bit laggy at places. And Brian is taking us back to the legendary track that kicked it all off, Wario Stadium. So reminder, very first track of the match, these two played this track, and Bisso won by 0.01. The closest you could possibly be without tying. But it was also a bit of a sloppy track for both players. We had quite a few wall hits, no tumbles, but I would say this track almost classifies as a high variance track for a lot of people, me included, to be perfectly honest. This track's awful. Bisso into the wall. Bisso struggling with his MTs a little bit. Brian looked like he had a little bit of a better shroom, but he hits the wall on the 180. Thing is with this track, it's you know, your opponent can have this huge lead, but if you start playing cleaner, they start making mistakes, you catch up really quick. The mistakes on this track lose a lot of time. Bisso going way to the left. It's a frustrating thing about tracks with some uneven ground. If you miss your drift, sometimes the game just flings you off in the opposite direction. But Bisso with almost a full second lead after lap 1. But then he hits the wall and Brian's right back in it. I don't know, you'd have to talk to the F-Zero community. Stuff on speed gaming tends to be started by the communities who run the games. So if they decide they want to put on a tournament, they can. Yeah, that's absolutely true, Haddock. There's so many places, especially once you get to the higher ranks, where you know, one mistake, one wall hit, and you have to reset. It loses too much time. Brian actually gaining time on that second lap, but still about 0.6, 0.7 behind. But it's a long lap. Bisso has shown himself to be a bit vulnerable on this track. Brian does need to play this clean. He needs to play clean and fast and hope Bisso makes some mistakes. He could very easily come back. Bisso with a very good shroom, though. Brian struggling up that hill. Kind of, we're past the point in the lap where you're going to see the biggest mistakes. It's going to need something pretty huge from Bisso. And Bisso looking like he's getting through a little clean. One last place where you could see a mistake, and I think Bisso will be taking this. Yeah, Bisso takes a 2-1 lead in the set. Yeah, lap 1 really the deciding factor. Brian drove very well the second and third lap. And we're going to a new track, Koopa Troopa Beach. Haven't done that yet this race, or this match, I should say. We've seen players of all levels missing the tunnel. In every single division, I've seen people missing the tunnel, so this could be a hectic race. If they both get through clean, I do like Bisso's chances, if I'm honest, but yeah, it's hard to predict what happens on this track. Here we go for the first tunnel jump. Bisso deciding to go straight. Oh, it hits the wall in the exit. So does Brian. They are very close to each other. Oh, Brian missing his drift. And didn't actually notice what their times were there. Kind of tried to look at both of their screens and ended up looking at neither. Lorenz is in Division 2, but people in Division 1 have missed it. Brian with a much better lap 2, definitely in the lead now, but went extremely wide. This could be a very close race to the finish. Oh, but Brian misses the tunnel! Had a bad angle coming at it and made it worse trying to fix it. And Bisso will take a 3-1 lead and he will get himself to match point. Going up the big long ramp for the fans. So Bisso one track away from taking the match, taking this extremely close match. But it is Brian's pick. See what he goes with. He did, of course, already use his Joker in set 2, so he doesn't have that to lean back on. But there are some good picks I can think of. I won't say anything. I have a feeling they're probably listening. Taking a bit of time to decide. Understandable, it isn't a very important pick. He's taking us to Banshee Boardwalk. That's a very interesting pick. Brian getting us into the Halloween spirit. I just check real quick. Is interesting. Bisso does have quite a bit of a lead on him, or advantage over him in their PRs on this track. So a very interesting trick from Brian. We'll see if these guys can get through clean. I would say just try to sync them up here. There you go. I will say this track is pretty high variance for a lot of people just because it is such a technical track. There's not so much in the way of obstacles or things that can get in your way, but just getting a really clean, tight, fast run on this track is not easy. Brian, though, with a pretty big lead after lap 1. Brian going for the drop shroom on this lap. Ooh, Brian comes very close to sending it into the water. And it does look like Brian is actually going to take Banshee Boardwalk. So he brings us to 3-2. I'll be honest, when he picked the track, I thought he'd made a mistake, but clearly he had the confidence and takes that track. Very well done. So yeah, this is Bisso's pick now. Match point once again. He does still have his Joker. I don't think he has any good picks against Brian is the thing. He does have Brian beat on Toad's Turnpike, but in a one-try scenario, Toad's Turnpike's not fantastic. Oh, Bisso. We're going to Rainbow Road. Oh. Very disappointed. Very close to getting a whole match with no Rainbow Road, assuming Bisso wins this. It's not a guarantee, but you would think with their difference in rank, Bisso does have quite a large advantage on this track. But yeah, sit back and relax, everyone. Yeah, imagine driving off the track on Rainbow Road. I mean, who would do that? I mean, there's fences. It's supposed to be impossible, isn't it? Speed Gaming 1 was live when we started. The chomp's the obvious barrier in this track. The cycle, they're on a cycle. I expect these players would know on their one try pace where the thwomps are going to be and play it safe, but we have seen a lot of chomp hits in this tournament. Seen a disturbing number of Rainbow Roads. You know, disappointing everybody. I'd like to just point out that I have not picked Rainbow Road a single time. Like a good, fair, and considerate Carter should. Yeah, the Japanese voice actor for Toad is different. I think Toad, Peach, and Wario at the very least are different on Japanese. Might be even more. So, almost a full second lead for Bisso. What they did at the beginning of lap 2 there was they slowed down at the beginning of the hill. If you stick to the road on that downhill, you gain an absurd amount of speed. It's called a Tran, named after the guy who developed the strategy. And Bisso got a much cleaner Tran on that lap. All the voice acting in this game is in English, even on the Japanese version. Peach as well. There's a thing in Japan, they do just like stuff in English. Super Mario Sunshine, all the voice acting's in English as well with Japanese subtitles. Bisso making some mistakes around that turn, but he has such a big lead that it's not too big of a problem. Brian does look like he kind of needs Bisso to hit a chomp at this point. Yeah, Yoshi is speaking English. What, you can't understand him, Dan? I mean, I understand him perfectly. So, coming to the end of lap 2, we've already spent as much time on this track as a full Wario Stadium race, almost. Wario Stadium being the second longest. Just an absurdly long track. Bisso gaining another large chunk of time on that lap 2. Pretty commanding lead. There are some couple of weird chomps on lap 3 that could still catch Bisso out. And that is really what Brian needs. The one good thing I can say about this track is the music, and unfortunately Brian doesn't even get that because he's the person who turned his music off for this match. So it's just a bit unfortunate for him. See, oh, Bisso hit the chomp! Brian could still take this! The great equalizer, the chomp. Suddenly this race is extremely close. Suddenly there's... Oh, and Bisso hits a second chomp! Are we going to a third 7-track set in a row? Oh my god, that was like 4 minutes of boredom followed by an amazing 30 seconds. Brian in the lead. There's no chomp till the end. He should get this. And he will tie up the set. 3 7-track sets in a row. And it is Brian's pick. He does have the advantage. It's his pick for the last track. We'll see what he picks. Does he go high variance? Does he go with a track he's good at? Does he take a risk and go something that that he hasn't practiced much? I did doubt the Rainbow Road. Another very important pick for Brian, taking his time, trying to figure out not just what he should pick, but what he's allowed to pick, actually. With 2 7-track sets in a row, so much of the track pool has been eliminated that it's a bit difficult to remember what he's picked in the past. And he is going for DK. Very interesting pick. He did win it last time, but it was a very close race. Here we go, potentially the last track. Brian with the comeback in this set, though. I believe he was down 3-1 in this set at one point. So again, 2 sets in a row, we've had a comeback. See if he can complete it. This match has been absolutely insane. Also, once again, Bisso zoomed out, Brian zoomed in. Brian's time is actually going to drift further and further back. So we're going to have to pay attention to their split times on each lap. Bisso again with a pretty far to the right jump. Neither player feeling like they had a good enough jump to go for the shroom. I assume they will both go for the cave shroom at the end of lap 1. Brian being in the lead right now actually means he's quite a bit in the lead because of the extra lag he's playing with zoomed in. Yeah, over a full second ahead. But this is DK, anything can happen still. Brian playing it much safer than Bisso. Struggles to get into the grass. So hard to tell who's in the lead. I think Brian might still just be in the lead. By the end of this race, they will be about 4 or 5 seconds apart just from the extra lag on Brian's side. So we will see Brian struggling a little bit. 39.45. Yes, Brian definitely still in the lead by about 0.6 or 0.7. Makes it over that jump. Ooh, struggling a little bit, but I think he's okay. Once again, so hard to tell who's in the lead. I think Bisso has definitely caught up on this lap. It might be extremely close at the end. Oh, but Bisso struggles to get into the fence, into the bridge. I think that will give the race to Brian. Yes, by 2 seconds. Wow. Great race from Brian. So not only have we had 3 7-track sets in a row, we are going to a 5th set. Unbelievable. And yes, Brian blew a 3-0 lead in set 3. Bisso blew a 3-1 lead in set 4. This is insane. Bisso taking a few seconds here. Understandable considering that set. Considering this match, this is unbelievable. I'm so glad I decided to commentate this match. Yes, all tracks reset for the 5th set. The Genesis halftime show? I mean, I can play some Genesis if you want. Get the whole stream muted for the VOD. Go Rainbow. Yeah, it is Bisso's pick to start. The fact that he lost the 4th set actually means he does have the advantage in this set. If it goes to the 7th set, he will have the final pick. And he's going to take us to Frapp Snowland for the first track of this set. Yeah, Bisso holding the Joker. I would be surprised to see him use the Joker, to be honest. Brian has much more experience when it comes to shortcut. Both doing the AB spin start. Both much cleaner than last race here. Yeah, both players actually struggled a bit on this track last time they were here. Bisso going in between the snowmen. That is quite a bit faster, but it is obviously much riskier. Pretty close after lap 1. Bisso probably with about a 0.2 lead, 0.5 lead. Wow, okay. Well, I was expecting. Brian is struggling a bit, missing some MTs in the snow. Getting into the snow loses much more time than you'd think. But this shroom is such a big equalizer. Very easy to mess it up and get sent into a snowman. Brian going inside that time. Both players going inside and making it. Neither player wanting to give an inch in this match. Bisso with probably about a full... Oh, Bisso hits a snowman! Oh my god! So Brian, even though a bit sloppy, a bit slower, but just avoids the snowman. Make sure this room is clean. He avoids the snowman. So does Bisso. And Brian is going to take the first track. Takes Bisso's pick. Brian's taking us to Mario Raceway. Probably a smart pick. He has won both Mario Raceway races so far. Yeah, I am actually surprised nobody's picked Bowser's Castle yet. I assume that's probably because neither player feels comfortable in Bowser's Castle. If one player was comfortable in Bowser's Castle, I definitely would have expected them to pick it by now. Both with very clean mushroom cuts. Brian clipping the wall a bit, that if you do it properly can actually save you time. I think he lost a bit there. Both very close at the end of lap 1. Brian 0.1 ahead. Let's see, lap 2 is what undid Bisso in the last 2 races. And it undoes him again! Into the wall. Brian, a very smart pick. We'll see what Brian does on lap 3. Brian going for the mushroom cut, makes it. A bit surprised Brian went for the mushroom cut. Thought he might play it safe and go around the outside, but paid off for him. And he is going to take a 2-0 lead in this set. Yeah, low 115 is very impressive from Brian. His PR is 114.94. He missed his PR by 0.13. That's pretty insane for a one try. And Bisso's taking us back to Choco Mountain, the 3rd time he's picked it. Clearly in love with the Choco. This is an interesting pick though, because Bisso has actually lost one of the races on Choco Mountain. Got hit by one of the boulders last time. So certainly has shown that Brian has a chance on this track. Absolutely. And if he does win this, he's going to take a 3-0 lead. But of course, Bisso's come back from a 3-0 deficit in this match already. Bisso coming out to an early lead. This is a track that if he does have a clean run, he is going to beat Brian pretty handedly. Their PRs are one of the more far apart ones in their matchup, which is why Bisso's so keen on picking it. A little squirrely on the hills, but didn't tumble. That's the important thing. Yeah, 2-0 lead, you start to feel a little comfortable, and concentration can sometimes slip a little bit. Oh, Brian gets hit by a boulder. I think that's the same boulder Bisso hit last race. And Bisso with a comfortable lead. The league is non-shortcut with the exception of once per race. Each player can pick shortcut for one track, once per match. So Brian has already used his shortcut track. He did that in set 2. Bisso still has his shortcut pick available, but I would be very surprised to see him use it. Brian is the much more experienced shortcut player. And Bisso is going to take his first track, really needed that. He now comes within one track of Brian. This is Brian's pick next. Again, such a stressful moment to pick a track in such a close race. Close match. Keep saying that. Had multiple races. And we're going to Moo Moo Farm. I like this pick, to be honest. Bisso has struggled slightly. I can't remember if this is the third time it's been picked by Brian. I can't remember if it's 1-1 or 2-0 for Brian. I know he won the first one. Both players having a little trouble with the uneven ground, but it's really the moles that decide these races. Brian going to the outside, both go to the outside. Brian with a good lead after lap 1 though. This is an MT, Bisso's going to catch up a bit. Ooh, a bit, yeah, a good idea to bail out of that MT from Brian. I think if he'd hung on and tried to charge that, he would have bounced into a mole. Bisso gained a bit of time on that lap, still behind. I'm going to refrain from saying what just popped into my head. I don't want to jinx anybody. Oh, Bisso came so close to the mole. Oh my god, Brian almost hit a mole. This is really close. Oh, and Bisso takes it by 0.07. They both came so close to hitting a mole on lap 3. So both players now have taken one of each other's picks. Now for the fifth track, we go back to Bisso. We're gonna go at least track 6 on the last set, which is crazy. And we're going to Toad's Turnpike. Very smart pick from Bisso, I'd say. And Brian hits a car early on. That is a shame. Hitting a car on this track, you're not going to make up that amount of time just by good driving. You need your opponent to hit a car as well, so pretty much as long as Bisso plays it safe and doesn't hit a car, he should take this track, but certainly no guarantee. The cars are not RNG actually, they're on consistent cycles. Yeah, they're always in the same place. Thing is though, once you hit one car, the cycles are a little off, so they're not quite where you're used to them. So sometimes when you hit one car, it can kind of lead to more hits. Brian's struggling on the fence there as well. Yeah, I think Bisso, that is the shroom strat he was doing in practice. I think he might use his last shroom. Yeah, he uses 0-3-0, kind of doing a 3-lap flap combination. .50-18, which is not that far off his flat PR, but not a PR. He did. He let Brian back into it last time. Very similar to what he did on Rainbow Road. So Brian's certainly not out of things. See what happens with Bisso. This is the part where the cars are super close to each other. But yeah, he's made it through clean. Should be fine, and he will take the 5th track. So we are back at match point for Bisso. Second set, he's had been at match point. But it is Brian's pick. Could we see 4 sets in a row go to track 7? Could we have that? That would be unbelievable. We'll see what Brian goes for. Very important pick. Super important pick. I mean, he's had good. Oh, we're going back to Wario Stadium. That's a very interesting pick. Here we go for potentially the last track of this match. I can't remember what happened in the second Wario Stadium. Bisso won the first one by .01. The second one, I can't remember who won that one. But it was also a pretty close race. Right, yes. If it hadn't been for a bad lap one, Brian would have won the second track, but Bisso did win that one. I remember that now. So this track, both races, both players have made quite a few mistakes, which is to be expected for a Wario Stadium in a one try. They yo-yoed back and forth on both races. Oh, Bisso struggling. He might... Oh, very lucky not to tumble there. But Brian with a pretty good lead to start off. Bisso struggling over those hills. Missing an MT as well. Brian pulling out a healthy lead. But this is Wario Stadium. Can't take it easy. He needs to keep going. If Brian can keep clean, he's going to force a 7th track. He's going to have a 2.5 lead after lap 1. Bowser's Castle. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Brian holds on to this. No guarantee. But if Brian does hold on to this, see what Bisso picks. Oh, Bisso tumbles on the shroom. Struggling on the shroom both laps. Gives Brian an even bigger lead now. KD shortcut. Yeah, Kyle. I believe, Kyle, you've been involved in the only 2 matches to pick Calamari Desert Shortcut. And nobody made the shortcut in either match. Lewis picked it in a match? Ah, okay. Against Soren. Oh, right. Yeah, right. That's when everybody learned about the backup shortcut. Nobody but Abney knew about it. And Lewis, apparently. Last shroom for Brian. Goes pretty wide. Oh, gets the Tran, though. Gets the Tran shroom for just a little bonus. Brian having a really good Wario Stadium, actually. He's kept it pretty clean. See what his time is at the end. What is his PR? I didn't see his split for lap 2 to see what pace he's on. He's got a 3:45 flat as a PR. Don't think he's quite gonna get there. But he does force a 7th track. This is insane. Set 1, I can't remember what the set score was, but sets 2, 3, 4, and now 5 have all gone to a 7th track. It is Bisso's pick. Oh my god, this pick is insane. And Brian's come back. Bisso's had match point twice. He had triple match point in set 4, and Brian came back. This is an absolutely crazy match. And Bisso's picking Royal Raceway. This is a track Bisso has been incredibly good on so far. Brian's going to need to really turn it on in this track. So here we go for the final track of this match. Been an absolutely crazy match to watch and to commentate. And now we go to Royal Raceway. That's true, Dan. This could, if they tie, it actually will go to an 8th track. They came really close in the first race. Let's see if they can do it on the what's supposed to be the last one. But yeah, this is a good pick from Bisso. He's won pretty comfortably the other 2 times it's come up in this match. Brian, though, definitely has the better hills out of the 2. He's consistently gaining time on Bisso on that 180. They're very close. Brian actually looking like he's having a much better race than the other 2. Bisso, though, landing earlier. I think he will have a lead at the end of lap 1. Oh, Brian getting the bounce off the jump. And it's an 0.08 lead for Bisso after lap 1. That's not a lot. Very easily, Brian could gain that back. Just struggling a little bit with untilts, losing him a bit of time, but still a very close race. Ooh, Brian almost getting caught up in the fence, but gets through pretty clean. Bisso definitely extending his lead on lap 2, though. Brian probably going to need Bisso to make a mistake. So yeah, now it's a 0.26 lead for Bisso after lap 2. Ooh, but Bisso making a bit of a mistake there. Brian not having the cleanest hill jump. This is a very close race. This shroom is going to be very important. Both need to get through it clean. Ooh, Bisso almost hitting the wall, but does make it through. I think Brian's just sort of run out of time to catch up. I think Bisso is going to take this. There's not much left that can go wrong. And he is going to take the final track, and he is going to take the match. What an incredible match it was. Takes it by about half a second in the end. So yeah, an absolutely amazing match from both players. Back and forth, all over the place. Closest match by a mile. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, wow, such an amazing match. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm just gonna really quickly pull up the schedule. See what the next match scheduled is. There is a match between me and Arenz tomorrow, but we currently don't have a commentator for that, so it might not end up on Speed Gaming. The next one currently scheduled on Speed Gaming is me and Arenz tomorrow at 3 p.m. Hopefully we can get a commentator for that. But the next one after that is the 2 Dans facing off each other in Division 1 on Saturday the 26th, 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's the next one that's guaranteed to be on Speed Gaming. But for now, thank you everybody for watching. That was an amazing match. Hopefully you come back for the next one. We'll see you next time.